What up, ninjas, and welcome aboard this Drew's News flight. Please fasten your restraint, keep your arms and legs inside the vehicle for a bit, and today's in-flight entertainment is brought to you by Ali Milne. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first episode of Ninjas with Altitude with me, Drew's News. And our first guest, I'm very lucky to have the one and only Ali Milne with me. Ali, how are you, brother?
Mate. Hey.
You doing well?
Yeah, doing good, mate. Doing super good. How are you?
Yeah, good, man. I've been quite busy for the last couple of hours, so it's nice to get in the chair and sit down and relax. And I think we're going to get into a good conversation, man.
Yeah. I mean, once we get talking, I think we're going to be talking for hours.
So what we're going to be talking about today, hopefully, is head up, group exits, and we're probably going to go off on a tangent on a lot of head up flying while
I can predict. Yeah, it's going to happen.
Mystic Meg's been out with a crystal ball, and I think that's going to happen. And then later on, we're going to chat about the progression to becoming an advanced instructor, or at least Ali in particular. Is that right, Ali?
Yeah, we can chat about that. Might even make a second podcast.
You never know. Also, well, without further ado, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Your dad was military, right?
Yeah.
Me being one as well, I'm not very familiar with your dad. I've met him once and shook his hand, and that was at this year's AGM.
Okay.
The famous Scotty Milne. Can you just tell me a little bit about your dad, man? Because I don't know him.
So my dad started jumping in 1969. He joined the army when he was 15. His first jump was in July, about the same time that Dane Kenny started jumping. He's someone else very experienced. My dad was in the parachute regiment for just over 22 years. He was in the Red Devils twice. He'd won the British Nationals. He says 5 times, but I think it's actually 6.
He's probably forgetting.
And he's got a World Championships medal in the early 80s in accuracy landings. And he's got just over 13,000 jumps, been an examiner for more than 20 years. Used to do tandems, doesn't do them anymore, and because he's 68 years old, but he's still smashing out the jumps and does mainly AFF based in Seville. In fact, when Europe was starting to get locked down, I was in Spain with my dad, and actually we'd just done this level 3, and we had some really great students when we were in Spain. And what ended up happening is we landed brilliant level 3, and it's one of those cases where you do a level 3 and the rest of the jumps with this student are just going to be amazing. It was a guy that actually trained in the tunnel before we went, and we just came back from the landing area, walked into the hangar, and then we got an announcement that the Spanish government was closing all drop zones in Spain, and Spain was about to get locked down. So basically, to get back from Spain, that afternoon, a couple hours later, me and my dad both booked flights to fly back. So he went back to Scotland, I went back to East Midlands, and Spain was locked down when we left, so I was a bit nervous driving out of Spain because we had to get our flights from Faro in Portugal. So yeah, we flew home, and that was that. It's such a shame because the students, it was such a great laugh with them all. So as soon as lockdown finishes, we're probably going to be trying to get them done. But it all depends on what's going to happen with Skyline. We've got to see what's safe, really.
Yeah, exactly. But I think you're the same as me. You're not really in any rush. You want
I'd rather wait and it was safe than rush out there. And but we'll just kind of wait and see what happens. So my dad did my AFF. He was my AFF instructor in March 2002. I did my AFF. I did a tandem in February 2000. Did the tandem with him as well. I was not a great student. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to say straight up, I was. You can ask anyone who was there. Some of the debriefs. I then basically started skydiving every weekend after getting my AFF, and I'd show up. Used to jump at Paragon Skydiving, which is Errol in Scotland. It's not a lot of people jump there. And then after that, I kind of because that's when my dad used to do tandems, and I pack his tandem. So I learned to pack tandems really fast because it's a case of quick, pack tandem fast, we go to another lift. So then I went to Skydive St Andrews and then realised you actually got paid for doing tandem pack jobs.
Yeah,
didn't tell me this. Like, you got paid for doing tandem pack job. So yeah, I started jumping at Skydive St Andrews and I met some guy called Ewan Cowie. And yeah, we were like friends from. We both had about 100 jumps at that time. And yeah, not so many. And so yeah, that's how my dad got me into the sport. And so he trained me, and now I work with him on his AFF trips. The plan actually this year was I was going to do loads of his trips and help him out a lot more. Because previous years I kind of filled my calendar so early, there wasn't the opportunity to then fit the AFF courses in. Whereas this year I'd made the effort not to do that, so then I could do some more AFF. So unfortunately, coronavirus is put paid to that.
Well, what I wanted to ask you as well, obviously in terms of like achievements and things like that, are you hot on your dad's heels, or have you got more achievement in, like, obviously I know you've got a barely big way record, head up big way. These are world records now, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean it's tough. It depends what you measure achievements in. So for instance, my dad's won the nationals many more times than I'll ever win the nationals, because once I won the nationals I stopped competing. Competition's really good. It's definitely a good way to get the skill up, but actually I liked, once I finished competing, having that opportunity in time to load organize or fun jump. Whereas when you compete, it's such an intense amount of time and effort and money that it kind of stops a lot of other things. I mean, that's not saying I'll never ever compete again, but I like doing the records.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, the reason I like doing it is it's such a big team of people working to a common goal. And especially when we do the UK stuff, sometimes it's the only time that we get to see everybody all in one place, because, you know, it's like everyone's busy at their home drop zones coaching or doing tandems or filming. There's not many opportunities we get everyone together at the same time, the same place. So that's quite why I like doing the records. And you know, you've been on quite a few of them. It's a good laugh, isn't it? You get a good bit of banter.
It's all your fault, man. I've got nobody to blame but you.
Yeah.
Well, which I was going to say.
How did I get you into it? You should tell that story.
I was going to say, I'll tell a little bit of the story to kind of encompass, right? Like, I've got a similar path into skydiving to yourself, except I'm first generation. And I did tell the story in the expo about when I went went into Skydive Swansea, and basically said I wanted to learn to skydive, and when he asked where I was from, he practically laughed me out of the building, you know. And then as I got to the door, said, you know, do you work hard? I'm like, yeah, like to work hard. And that's when he said, well, you know, if I teach you to pack a parachute and pay you to pack each parachute, the more you pack, the more you earn, you can put the money towards learning. So kind of, I was automatically bred into this, I guess, the community of working skydivers, you know.
Special skydiving, yeah.
And then when I met you, I came to do 40 minutes of tunnel time. That was my only ever tunnel experience. And all credit to you, man. You got me back flying and transitioning, and we were just starting to kind of sit fly. Like, there was a nice sort of level of progression, and I wanted to do more of, but really couldn't afford at the time, you know. And so therefore, free flying wasn't on my radar. I was always going to be a tandem instructor, AFF instructor. And then I'm not sure if it was you that actually mentioned to me about applying for the tunnel, but somebody did within skydiving, and I fancied it. So that's when I applied for the tunnel, started working for Air Kicks. And all of a sudden, free flying was accessible. And because of the sheer amount of time I was able to do, I became relatively good at it. And then it was one day when you came to Basingstoke coaching, you mentioned to me about the big way head up out in Imperial Brava. And that was with the Fly Warriors. And of all the people, Nimo gave me I bred my F1 in 2012 in Imperial Brava, where we were staying with you and Ewan. It was me, Ben Jenkins, and Tej and Mikey Phillips.
Yeah, that was a good trip. That was. I remember that 2012 when went away. I think I did 2 trips, one a month apart, just fun jumping, and that was who was out there that time. Yeah, you and there's a lot of the Scottish people. Fraser McNiven. I think Luke Wigman was out then. Did you ever?
No, I didn't, because at the time, man, I had never been to a boogie. Like, I didn't understand how to be load organised or anything, so I stuck really close to the 3 friends I was with. You know, one of them happened to know you, and that was it.
Yeah.
And I had just started to like practice free flying out of the plane in Swansea, so I paid for a coaching jump, and off the time it was Babylon, and it was Nimmo, and we did like a coaching jump, and he basically flew around me and managed to follow me across the sky and in all shapes, and we landed, got to the debrief, and his exact words in the debrief were, "Man, your body position's shit, but it's Christmas. Here's your fucking FF1." So the running joke was that I had paid for my, I bought my FF1. And like I say, that was before all of the tunnels started. So kind of went full circle then when you talked me into doing the Euro tryouts. And then obviously I got back in contact with Nimmo, and well, the rest is history.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely got a love for this big way stuff. And certainly through my tunnel job and through my instructing roles within skydiving, I obviously have this passion for coaching as well. And I'm an enthusiastic low-level load organizer. Hence, I've got this chat on with you today to talk about head-up exits. Because on a completely selfish level, I want to learn off you, man. I'm like a sponge. But hopefully then, on a bit of a selfless level, when we put this on the internet, hopefully we can, or you mainly, and me just with open mouth, can kind of teach some other young skydivers, because particularly if you think getting into free flying, you've just got your FF1, you can fly with your mates now in these small groups. The point of that skydive that you can constantly practice with those same mates on the same level is that exit. And we know from, well, certainly yourself from your experience and myself, that if that exit, or the better we get that exit, the better the rest of the skydive is, and the easier the skydive is. It's actually more difficult to do that than it is to fly next to a base and take a grip on a base. So like I say, if we can help people nail the exit, hopefully the rest will start to fall into place with them. And it'd be cool to see some lower level free flyers launching 4-way linked exits, man.
Especially when we get to high technical level skydiving, it's the tiny little things that can make the biggest difference. Because any coach can say, get your head back and strong legs, but it's these tiny little things that if 3 or 4 people are doing 3 or 4 small things slightly wrong, it has a really big effect on the skydive. Even before you get to the aircraft, you'll have made a list of decisions that are going to affect the outcome of how the exit goes. And normally when I'm looking to make a base, especially when we're training for a record, so I try and put the best people, the most experienced people at doing that exit as I can into doing the exit. Because let's say we've got a 12-way, if I were to pick 3 people that had very little experience in the launch, had never done it before, and perhaps maybe didn't have quite at the skill level, then the skydive is over for everybody. So yeah, it's giving people that experience, and so trying to pick the best team you can before you get there. And then it's training and practicing and setting up. I know when we do fun jumps, we want to have as little plan as possible. We just want to walk out to the aircraft, do one run through, and happy days. But actually, I kind of use my competitive experience that we need to practice something a lot of times. And sometimes we were doing this like 10 times just with the 4 core people, because placing yourself into the airflow at exactly the right time relative to everybody else makes such a difference. And when we're launching that exit, we're kind of trying to get in that same kind of half to quarter second that we get all of us happening at the same time.
Yes.
So yeah, a lot of how the success of the exit's going to go is decided before you get to the aircraft.
Correct. And then just another a little point on that. You're saying about you're all trying to get within this bubble of like I guess from front float to rear, you've got maybe half a second window where you want to be out of the door level, like and I think in your head-up article you said, imagine like as we go out, and this is something you can practice on your dirt dive, that all your feet, you want to be hitting the floor at the same time.
Yeah, so and that really is the biggest thing.
Sure, and that's what we'll see in some of these videos where I would consider them, they're bloody perfect exits. The next level up to that is a world stage. Doesn't get much higher the standard, but you'll see minute timing things here and there where somebody may go 1/10 of a second early, which puts a little bit of tension and this sort of thing. But it's how everybody reacts to the exit. It's not just right, oh well, timing was wrong, it's going to fail. It's like, no, it's our timing was wrong. Now how do we react and who reacts?
Yeah, exactly. And when things go wrong, that's a case of experience. So a lot of the people that we had in that base had done, so for when we get to the record weekend, we did the exits 9 times, and 9 times we did them successfully. I think 2 of the people that were on the launches did about 30 successful head-up launches in the lead up to practicing it. And when we looked at the videos, actually, you can see that we do have a bit of rotation, and often it rotates all the way around. But if you look at the timing of the first people to dock, that doesn't actually make any odds. It doesn't lose us any time, which is good. And when we did the world record, one that I was on, I did the launch about 23 times from the Skyvan. We did 23 jumps, including the practice jumps. And if you played the videos, they would have a little bit of rotation, and sometimes people would fall off onto their back. But it's all about that recovery. I guess it's having the presence of mind, because on every skydive you do, something's going to go wrong. But you need to have the presence of mind, take a breath, look what's going on, assess what you need to do, make the decision, and have the appropriate action to correct everything that's going on.
I love that, man. And I know Nemo is super, super keen on that sort of stuff as well, on the Euro stuff. And like, I think, well, we're very lucky in the UK, particularly going from the like the domestic level or the national level. We've got the likes of yourself and Paul Cooper. Kind of, you guys are leading that sort of front for us. So you would give our fountain of knowledge, and then obviously we bring it down to kind of an even lower level. But then we step up towards this European level, and this is kind of where I was equating our UK exits. Is like, yeah, okay, they're turning, they're not staying on heading, but this is a national level. These are, we have a lot fewer people to be able to achieve this goal. Whereas if it's on a world level, hell yeah, you'd expect our exit to stay on heading because you've got the best flyers on the planet, So I guess what I'm trying to say in short terms is, for such a small island we are with all these few people, we have a lot of quality there to choose from.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I'd say about these exits is when I'm load organising, either in the UK or in Europe, I'll still use these exits, even if we're doing a tracking dive, because I'll launch head up, go to a head up angle, then everyone transitions, and then we track the rest of the jump. So you can put these exits in, even in situations where maybe you're not necessarily training to do it. Also, when you've got those kind of load organising events, it gives people the opportunity to have a go doing those exits maybe they haven't done before. And you can get some of the best skydivers in a small little bubble, or people who are very good in the tunnel but don't have a lot of skydives, and actually they've got the skills but they've never had that experience. So when you get to load organising events or Big Way Training Council, Big Way Records, even very experienced skydivers going to come along, and they're going to gain experience that they can't gain anywhere else because of this sort of unique situation that we find ourselves in.
Yeah, it is very specialized, isn't it? And I guess the really good way to sum up this big way is that, yeah, it's just a 1 point skydive. But that's such a simplistic way to put it. It's like, okay, that's the cover of the book. Like, saying there is just 1 point skydive is the cover of the book. Now open the book and see the contents and what's required to achieve that 1 point skydive. There's a hell of a lot more than that. And then obviously the more people, it's exponentially more difficult to make that happen.
Yeah,
so, like,
absolutely.
People have said that to me about big ways. Like, yeah, why would you just want to do a 1 point skydive? I said, yeah, okay, you don't get it. That's fine. I can only ask, you know.
Yeah, you get a lot of people. I mean, it's kind of a playful banter in skydiving. You get the people, and you know what? Honestly, it's people who've never done it. And then you've got your formation skydivers, and there's that sort of friendly rivalry with the free flyers. Then you've got your wingsuiters, and then you've got your swoopers, and then you've got the guys that wear the tracking suits. You know, there's always that little bit of banter that, you know, it's just part of our culture. It's just part of our culture.
I was going to say one more story before we get into the video, because I'm just going to refresh your memory for you. I can't remember if it was 2016 or 2017, Flanders Boogie, where I think I came up to you, you were load organising, and I was just on the boogie, and I came up to you and I'm like, Ali, yeah, what's up, mate? How much money have you got? Do you remember this?
No, I don't.
Why? Like,
oh no, I do remember this. Yeah.
I just lost my wallet in free fall.
You lost your wallet, yeah. Oh.
I come up to you every time I needed money. Ali, can I have another 150 euros?
You know what? You know, it's quite funny that when I'm abroad, that happens to me about once a year. Normally if someone from the UK loses their wallet and they're like, who's going to be nice enough to lend me some money? I'm like, yeah. In fact, I was at a boogie last year. I actually lent someone my credit card for the 2 weeks we were at this event. I was like, you've lost your card. There's mine. Just whatever you put on it, just pay me at the end. It's all good.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's about once a season. It's
You're like the overseas delegate for poor and distressed skydiving.
Yeah.
Right, should we get into these videos, man?
Yeah, let's do it. So yeah, let's take this forward another second. So looking at this exit, we can see the person on the rear float was maybe a little bit late, but they've just gone onto their butt. They're doing a bit of bum flying, and when that happens, that's going to affect how the base flies. So that's just going to cause a little bit of an issue. We've also got a couple of people just kind of hunched forward, and it takes a while because when we do the exits, especially on the big ways, we're very compressed in the door. We're lucky to have the Dornier. Dornier at Hibbelstow. It's absolutely fantastic because the door is massive. But we've got all the floaters on the outside and all the divers on the inside. It's taking up a lot of our space. So once we exit, we then have to wall up and then expand into our good head-up position. Let's just take it forward a little bit more. The key thing is, when the base rotates, you should never rotate with it, just go in a straight line, because otherwise you're going to end up chasing it and then going all the way back. You just got to have your trust that it's going to get back on heading, which it did on this one and all the other ones. So looking at it a little bit slower, we'll just pause it half a second out the door and let's have a look at the different things going on.
Yep.
The fall rates of these head-up exits are extreme. We can see the people, even though they were touching us a second earlier on the exit, they are absolutely pinning it to catch us because we're really punching into the atmosphere. When we get to head-up formations and they start picking up with grips, the fall rate is ballistic. In fact, it's an important part of the base's job to keep the fall rate off. Now, because the base is rotated, we've now got a couple of people that aren't quite sit flying. Someone's catching the air on the side of their body, someone's catching the air on their belly, just that little bit. And this really shows someone's training, experience, and discipline at recovering that situation to then getting themselves into where they need to be. one thing I would say is whenever that happens, you know, you've just got to do it wrong enough times. You know exactly how to fix it when it's going to come around. And the grips are super strong. Where possible, we try and do like a monkey grip. And the reason we do it like that is it's twice as strong, because if one person lets go or is weak, the other person can hold on. Having said that, when we launched the Exit, not all grips can be taken like that, because some people are holding on to the bar, so they're holding on to the jumpsuit sleeves. And actually, it's a big part of dirt diving, because these grips are high tension grips. It's not gentle, soft grips. It's strong, tight grips. In fact, you can actually see that from when you do that, you feel how tense, how strong these grips need to be. And you need to have about the same amount of tension on one side as the other. If you have one side go all soggy spaghetti, you're going to have a little bit of a problem. So it's keeping that same amount of tension. Okay, so good recovery from inside people. At this point, I'm probably thinking, crikey, I'm not looking the right way. When the base has had that amount of rotation, it's sometimes easier just to keep the momentum going the same direction and then locking onto the head in just that little bit earlier. One good thing about flying a base is when we build big waves, we try and fly pods of 5 people. Realistically, you need a quite good level to fly a pod and fly it for a long amount of time. But flying in the base really is a pod. It's a pod that's expected to be on heading pretty much from exit all the way to break-off. So you get a lot of experience flying, holding onto those grips.
I teach it a lot in the tunnel. I'm saying with my non-grip hand, while I'm taking the grip, I'm doing what I need to do to fly the grip. Then once I have the grip, I'm concentrating on presenting for the next person. And I try and instill that in people at an early stage, of, you know, as soon as you start teaching them to take grips. Because even putting that tension with your elbow on the wind there, that does add a bit of stability as well when you learn to fly it.
Yeah, it's exactly. I mean, what you're saying there is fantastic. And the thing is, because you've had that experience, you can then share that with your students. So they themselves are gaining instruction, and that's going to help them when it comes for their turn. Where you get people who maybe don't have that experience, not aware of that experience. So you're giving your students more value just by coming to these events and gaining those skills and experience. You know, skydiving, there's always something to learn. You never run out of stuff. Never run out.
Right, number 2, bro. Number 2, coming at you.
Yeah, so I remember this one. So you've got Liam just in front of the camera. He is a super floater. So you get to see him drop off really early. People might be thinking, what is a super floater? So basically, the theory of a super floater is when we've multiple aircraft flying in formation, from the lead plane, and when you use a super floater, you give signal to someone and they drop off the aircraft early. And as soon as they drop off, everyone from the other aircraft can see he's gone and they all exit as fast as they can. So with the super floater, it's all about timing. So what we're looking for is him to drop off and pretty much most of the people to exit the other aircraft by the time the base leaves. And it's called a floater because he's going to exit off the aircraft. At the moment, he's facing forwards, and that's just so he's got a really good look at what's going on. But as he goes off, he rotates onto his back. And the best way to explain it is it's like a steep backtrack flying, I'd say up towards the base. It's not up, but relatively speaking, back towards the base. And the reason it's a super floater is he's got the biggest horizontal distance to cover out of pretty much anyone on the formation. So that was Liam Powell that did that, and he did really, really good job there.
Well, right. I've never been in this position, but it sounds like a really fun position.
Yeah.
It's like the greyhound, like.
And there's kind of couple of traps you got to watch out for if you ever end up as a super floater, because it can be easy to overdo it. Because what you got to remember is, when you're blasting towards the base, and you're coming in really fast. Actually, when you start slowing down, you then need to get the air on your belly. And then when you get your air on the belly, it then slows you down like so. So actually, if the base is coming down like so, you've actually got to make sure that you've stopped and made all of your stops before you cross this line.
Right.
So yeah, that's and especially with the super floater, because you can pick up a lot of speed. Normally the super floater is going to dock on the outside of the formation, and because they're going to be one of the later people to arrive to the party.
Yeah, so that's a super exit, man, and a really nice time.
That one looked a little bit cleaner. It just looked like a couple of people who were opposite each other. One got air on their back, one got air on their belly. We can see everybody approaching now the formation. It's really challenging to approach it head up. So generally people will approach it head down and then make the transition once they get pretty close to their slot. Pretty close. Okay, so we can see here, actually it's pretty much on heading, but we've just got one of the people in the base on the sort of the 9 o'clock position. It's got a bit of air on their belly, and that's kind of causing a bit of rotation. And the person at the 3 o'clock position is a little bit on their back. So whilst we've got the people in the 12 o'clock and the 6 o'clock flying strong, they've just got a bit of rotation to deal with. We can see here, so it looks like we're probably a couple of jumps in. We can see the people diving out of the aircraft, and we can see the difference, that they're a whole lot straighter in their positions a whole lot earlier. And that's often the benefit that we get from doing multiple jumps. Often I like people to come to training camps. It makes a really big difference, because even people who are good skydivers, it might take them 3 or 4 jumps just to warm up, to get into that sort of in the zone kind of area. Whereas if you come just for the record weekend, then, you know, you show up and you maybe make a mistake and then you get rotated out. Whereas if you come to a few training camps and then you're current, you're confident, and you're ready to talk. So yeah, everyone on this looks like they're nice straight bodies as they're diving down towards us.
Yeah, number 3.
Okay, so yeah, looking at this exit, this is one where we've got couple of timing issues. I think it's just one really. So I think it's quite easy to spot. Oh, what a recovery.
That's strong, like.
What a recovery.
Yeah.
You've got to have that fight that you're going to get this done. You've got to have that belief it's going to happen.
For sure, man, for sure.
You can see everyone looking in so they can try and see the exit count. Okay, yeah, so let's pause it there. So we can see from earlier, compared to, you know, when we had all 4 helmets, they were on a straight line, right? We've got tail, so a person at the bottom of the screen has gone pretty early. I'm halfway in between those, and then we've got the point flyer at the top of the screen. Is that a little bit high? No, it might be me and the tail's gone that little bit early. Then if we look into the aircraft, we can see Lee's checking the spot, making sure it's all good before he gets out. Let's just run it another half second and let's see what happens from there. We don't do a lot of side flying in skydiving because it's difficult, right? So this is a position that is tricky to fly. Now, it could be corrected by if he had his right shoulder a little bit lower, his left shoulder a little bit higher, if he just rotated around a little bit more. Oh, yeah, so at this point, this especially if you're one of the other 3 people, you're thinking, right, this grip, letting go, I'm going to be strong. Now, what I've seen people do at this point, you can see where his thighs are, so they're broadly at 90 degrees. I've seen people then tuck their thighs into a belly position and then they're off.
Yes.
What he does is he keeps his knees in and he keeps everything. Probably hands on my forearm. I think that's probably one of the kind of jumps where you end up with like 4 fingers and a thumbprint bruised bruised on there. But that's sometimes that's what you got to do. So let's see the ring now. Yeah, he's keeping his knees, he's keeping balled up, he's keeping everything tight. But it's contributing to the rotation. There's now 2 people are on their belly. We're starting to get a bit of a chain reaction. A little bit more side flying. And in that position, getting those hips in is just going to help yourself become more vertical, become more stable. And there we go. We've got a recovery. Still a couple of other people, a little bit much air on the belly. And then everyone's just kind of relaxing into that tense-arm, strong position.
Man, I got to say, that was one of the best recoveries ever. We watched that in real time again. That was impressive, man.
Things go wrong. I mean, when that happens to you, especially if it's the first time it's happened to you and you correct it, you're gaining extra experience points. Actually, in the training especially, if the base blows apart but then rebuilds, I'm happy with that because that gives people that confidence that they can recover stuff.
That's all the training, like you said earlier, all the training.
Mentally, you say to yourself, right, I'm going to be on this year's record or next year's record or the next European record. It gives you that goal and focus, something to work on.
Yeah, for sure. I think with that Euro record that you put me up to as well, it was more a case of just go to the tryouts because I didn't have any big weight experience at the time. So obviously on a very subjective level, it was just like just go to the tryouts, have fun.
Yeah.
And I just ended up having probably a bit too much fun. And it was on that first jump of the record, man. So I'd been to all of the tryouts, all of the warm-ups, and I hardly put a foot wrong, in all of them, and I learned a lot, got a lot of experience, and then jump 2 of the record attempts. I think I was in the middle of just finishing stowing my pilot chute when they called us for debrief, and I pushed my pilot chute all the way into the bottom of the container, dropped my rig, went for the debrief, and then even once I put my rig on, because we were on a quick kit up, put my rig on, I've done a handle check, but with gloves on, my toggle felt like my toggle. And I've checked it, I'm religious with that, man, especially being a tandem instructor, I do I even do systems checks on my sports rig, You probably do the same sometimes and go, wait a sec.
Yeah.
And yeah, of course, I've got to the end of my skydive, a nice 40, I think it was a 46 way we tried. And yeah, there was nothing to pull at the bottom, and I just couldn't get it out in time. That's one of my few mistakes I've made packing over the years, man. Few mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's human at the end of the day. We all make mistakes. That's all part of the game.
There's a lot of it down to nerves as well.
So is this the one where we get the record?
Yeah, and I've just talked all the way through it so we can put it back.
Yeah, it's all good. I mean, one of the things about this jump is at the time I didn't appreciate how good this looked because I always think a role of the coach or load organizer is not to tell yourself necessarily that how good you're always doing, but it's how can you make it better. So when I was looking at the video, almost micromanaging all the different inputs that people were making, thinking, is there anything that I could change? Is there anything that I could do to or say to the people to make the performance better? It's only actually when I watched it, and someone shared it on Facebook, it's probably a week later I watched it and was like, damn, those guys flew good. But at the time, I was just right, how can we make this better? How can we do? And we got one record on the Friday. That's where we got the 18 way. And we got the 21 way on the Saturday. Now, 2 records in 2 days is good in anyone's books. Yeah. And by the end of the Saturday, we're going up and we did a couple of 24 ways. We were just 1 grip out. So 1 grip or 2 grips out from getting 3 records in 2 days. And the plan is, if you remember, we had the Sunday and the bank holiday Monday, but then the weather closed in and we didn't do another jump. That determination of everyone to take that day off work
It did.
That made all the difference. And if we'd had an extra 2 days, which is, we can always say that in Britain, can't we? If we'd had amazing weather,
Yeah.
you know, for the countries that have good weather all the time, it must be so easy organising things. But if we'd had those 2 days, we'd have absolutely got a 24-way and then a 27-way, because we had people there.
It's a case of the record. Okay, the record consists officially of the people who were on the record, you know, in the air at the time. But in reality, man, the record consists of the record and the bench organisers, like the poor bench organisers, man. Like Jakob was ours when he like, and they all like the hero himself, but the bench organisers, they always like miss the credit, don't they? You know.
Yeah, I mean, as well as them, you've got like we had Baldrick on drop zone control all weekend, making sure we had great weather. We had the pilots, we had Ash and H did a fantastic job flying. The drop zone did a real good job getting us up in the air. So, I mean, it really is, it's a big team effort. When you think about it, we had about 35, maybe 40 people there at different points. And it's one of the biggest free flying events in the UK calendar is when we do these big ones. When we get everyone together, it's a really good experience, and yeah, it's a good time.
Like, is there any scope to be doing another UK record of some kind later this year, man?
I don't think that even if we were back skydiving, I mean, when you think about the dirt diving, you just think how long we're holding hands with everybody. I know wearing gloves is good and all, but I think it's probably going to be a next year project. But if we do get jumping again this year, it's probably not going to be picking up grips. So probably going to be a whole lot of tracking, and that's cool because that's popular nowadays.
Yeah.
This season, I quite a few weekends planned where, and it's like I say, there's always something to work on. And I was going to do some canopy formations. I had 2 weekends that in the calendar marked out where I was going to do some CF stuff. There was a flocking event in Emporia. That might still happen in September. That's kind of interesting going, we're going to do quite a bit at Langer. So I had quite a lot of canopy related stuff. I love doing the flocking stuff, flying with a couple of Valkyries next to each other, doing barrel rolls, and just look to doing more of that. But yeah, season coronavirus, man.
Well, I did listen to this song last week, man, and there was a line in the song and it did say, crew is more deadly than fucking kung fu.
I did hear that, yeah, absolutely. That's true. It's like you always know when there's someone who does crew around and you're like, that's not a knife, this is a knife. And they just pull out this massive, like, machete. They've got double machetes. And
I don't know. Right then. Go through this last video, man, because this is the record. And then if you want, should we grab a cup of tea? And then we can go through the other half, or we can do the other half later or tomorrow, or wherever you want.
Cup of tea's good. I'll just keep going. I'm in the zone, mate.
Yeah, same, man. Same,
yeah. I don't even know how long we've been going. I've just been talking. Now, when we do a record skydive, you've got to remember, or you've got to think, not everyone on the jump has to have a perfect jump. We can end up making mistakes and correcting them. The more times that we do the jump, the more times we're in the same slots, the better you're going to be, generally speaking, every jump. Often I say to people, once diving down to the formation or floating up to the formation, once they've done a couple of jumps in that same slot, I say to them, you don't need to go any quicker, but you're just going to be a bit more efficient. You're maybe going to stop a little bit later. You're going to be a bit more aware of your levels. You're going to be looking in the right place. You're going to be assessing more accurately. You're going to make that right decision. And you're going to make the appropriate amount of action at the appropriate amount of time. Whenever people get nervous and, you know, there's always that stress and anxiety, you want to have that optimum amount of stress and anxiety. If people are too stressed or too anxious, then they end up with one of their fear responses. And, you know, the most common fear responses you get, and it's whenever you listen to popular science, you always say fight or flight. But actually, there's 2 other fear responses. We'll talk about that in a minute once we've watched the end of the record jump. So it's just dealing with and coping with the stress in the appropriate amount of way.
Love it.
And it's really funny, sometimes people say, I don't do big ways because I would get bored. Now, I've done a lot of big ways, and I can tell you, I don't see bored people on skydives. It's really, when people get that skydive face, everyone looks different in free fall, right? Even when they got that full face helmet. It's like, sometimes people have been painted with a fear brush. You're just looking at them, and you're like, oh my God, are they okay? And sometimes the best thing about it is just smiling at them. But yeah, so this jump, you build in it, you know things are going well. Certainly from the 6 o'clock position, I am in the base. We've had 2 people break in. We've got the first stingers on fast, got the second stingers. So when I'm looking ahead and I can see everyone in my pod built, I'm thinking, this is good. This is going well. And then you start looking to the left, looking to the right, and you can see there's not many people left. And you know that it's going to come down to those last few seconds. Yep. Incidentally, it isn't ever really time we run out of. People think it's time we run out of. It's discipline. There we go. And that's a record.
Yeah. And
Jakob did really good job because he was a bench load organizer, flew all the way over from Poland. And I think actually he got lost on the record, didn't he? Did he not play in the bar? Did he not play in the bar, his actual approach to it? And it was like, he went all the way around the formation. You know, he did super good job and helped us out big time there.
Yeah, man, he's an absolute legend. Like, I love him. I love him. Oh, brilliant. Man, that was awesome. That was awesome. Yeah, that was fucking awesome, man. And I learned loads as well. This is like virtual learning, you know, distance learning.
Yeah.
Love it. Love
and
it.
I kind of had this idea to do something like this, but it's like, you know, if it's just one person, if you're just doing it yourself, it's kind of like you're talking to like a brick wall, like literally. But
yeah,
if you've got someone here like you, and it's someone you know well, it flows a lot better, and you know, it's I'm just too focused on talking.
Yeah, I love it though. I get the same. Like
you set me off talking. I could talk for hours. You'd be like, at 10:30, you go, all right, Ali, I think we're done. I go, yeah, I've got one more thing. I've got a chart which shows why actually we should be doing. You'd be like, okay, we've seen enough charts. We're done with charts.
Yeah, man, I know this.
Speaking about charts, right, here we go. I'm going to go share screen. Okay, so we were talking about different fear reactions. We talked about fight or flight, and I alluded to, there's actually some other fear reactions, and everyone experiences fear in skydiving. It's natural. It's our body's evolutionary coping strategy for action. And basically, fight or flight are the ones that we talk about the most because they have the highest energy. So basically, the fight reaction is you're scared and you want to fight your way out. So if you were, 10,000 years ago, you're in a bush, you saw a tiger, you grab a club and you want to attack it. That's your survival strategy. But then you've got the flight reaction. So 10,000 years ago, you're in a bush, you see a tiger, and you decide, you know what, I'm going to leg it. So that's the two sort of big high energy fear reactions. But when you think about it, there's actually another very common fear reaction that we all know about. So we're going to look at engaging and disengaging reactions to fear. So freeze. So the rabbit in the headlights. So when we get that high amount of adrenaline, the high amount of stress in the body, normally we get one of these reactions. As skydivers, we actually are very familiar with the fourth kind of reaction, and that is facing our fear, right? So we face the fear, we know we're scared, we do it anyway. Okay, so we've got the high energy fight or flight, we've got the low energy face or freeze. Now, in modern day skydiving, let's talk about high energy engagement. So that's the fight. So you're saying about your pilot chute earlier and packing, and you shoved it right in. That's just a little bit of the fight reaction. Now, the reality is nowadays, we don't fight our way out of situations. But where we do see it on a skydive is if someone goes over the top. See it on AFF. someone is like, they're like a bull in the china shop. So they are engaging with the fear, but they're over engaging. So
engaging in a healthy way with it, or in a
yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's over the top. It's not a healthy way. And the good thing about a fight reaction is they are engaging, and you've just got to get them to lower the energy, calm everything down, and then you get them facing the fear.
Yeah.
When you've got high energy disengagement, which is the flight response. Now, the reality is nowadays with skydiving, you don't get many people run off. Like if you said to someone, okay, you're up next for your tandem, people don't run off. Generally, what they do is they won't show up. That's the way they avoid it. It's evasion. And then we've got the freeze reaction. Now, the freeze reaction is very common with tandem students, and it's often all people on record jumps, where it's almost a bit of overload, where their brain stops assessing and deciding what they need to do next. So there's that freeze. With a freeze, generally what you need to do to get them to face the fear is encourage engagement. So if it's in a place where you can speak to them, just giving them positive encouragement, giving them a thumbs up. If it's in free fall, they can't speak, then it's just giving them a smile, just telling them to relax. The easiest thing to say in skydiving, but the most difficult thing to do.
Yeah. And it's interesting, out of those four, that freeze, I guess, well, outside of skydiving, but particularly for skydiving, freeze is obviously the most dangerous to us, because it's that, like you say, it's that overload of the brain just not processing enough information for you to be able to put an action in place, right? Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And even the fight reaction is, so we talked about a physical engagement, so high energy engagement. The fight reaction is also very noticeable with verbal actions. So if someone's really stressed and you just kind of push them over the edge, that's when they bite your head off. And you know, if that ever happens, it's, you know, if you said the wrong thing, it's, you know, you just tell people that you're all working for the same aim and the same cause.
Yeah, okay.
You know, sometimes I think the following thoughts, and I know it's wrong. Sometimes, especially if I've been really busy for a while, and I think, you know what, I just want to be bored for a bit. I want to have no stress. I want to have no worries. But actually, that's where you get boredom. That's where you end up getting depressed. You need that challenge. You always need that next push. So as you increase stress levels, you get that increased attention, that increased focus, and that center point of maximum performance with an optimum amount of stress. That's kind of where you're aiming. Now, where we end up with the fight or the flight or freeze reactions are when it has gone right, that green area. So when people get to strong anxiety, whenever they're in that state, they're never going to perform as well as when they're relaxed or when they're in that optimal state. And of course, you know, you go around to the right, you've got that complete meltdown. And that's the person that comes zooming past the formation, 200 miles an hour. That's the person you don't see on the video because after exit, they just, you know, had an issue and couldn't resolve it. So it's always managing that right amount of stress and anxiety. And those people that say they might get bored, actually, they're never going to perform as well in that situation. So yeah, that's Yerkes-Dodson law.
Yerkes-Dodson law. I'll remember that one, man, because it's a good place to be. But if you notice, it is also a very, very similar curve to the distribution of IQ. Optimal performance.
You know what? I have that on this same presentation. Talking about fear and cognition. So that's a bell curve distribution of people's IQs. So we need something to measure. We could measure lots of different things, but IQ is an okay way of measuring. There's some people who are gifted in other ways, but just for this purpose, we're going to use IQ. So most people are in that sort of blue area in the center, and that's having your average score IQ. Some people are to the right-hand side, So they're superior or very superior to gifted. Some people, it's the left-hand side. So people who are borderline mentally retarded or mildly mentally retarded. And one thing we've got to remember is if we take the whole population, 50% of people are below average and 50% of people are above average. So sometimes when we're teaching, especially when we're teaching first jump students, you're not trying to teach the average person or necessarily the cleverest person, although you're trying to teach them all. You've got to watch the people who are below average because they might not have picked up on everything. Sometimes people will say, yeah, but that's obvious. I mean, it might not be obvious to someone who is, you know, not as gifted as other people in the class. But I appreciate that some people are more gifted physically, some people more gifted theoretically, and your role as a job and a coach and an instructor is to find what works for different people. But whenever you get nervous, you are not as clever as you are when you're not nervous, okay? So imagine that you start off right in the middle of average and you're that little bit nervous. All of a sudden, you're a little bit lower.
Yeah, okay.
If you're very nervous, then it's even more.
Really?
If you're extremely nervous, yeah. So, I mean, that's why, if you think about it, it explains why people in skydiving make really dumb decisions. It's that nerves, it's that panic, it's when they're rushing. Now, that's when you start off as the average person. Let's say you started off to the left and you started getting really stressed and really nervous. Man, you are so far down to the left-hand side. So, and, you know, you've got to, when you teach, you've got to make sure that you challenge people. So the people who are more gifted, either physically or mentally, you've got to keep them challenged. But you've also got to make sure that you don't leave people behind.
I guess to relate that back to Yerkes Dodson, let's keep those very, I guess, in the superior category, keep those people just engaged because they're clever enough to learn the stuff. But then the people on the sort of left-hand side, then, like I say, it's more about challenging them to improve. Well, that sounds like a good note to maybe call it a wrap, unless you've got anything else you want to add.
No, I'm all good, mate. I'm all good.
So hopefully people are going to go away having helped us study some head-up exits, and maybe can go back when we get jumped in.
Yeah, I mean, we went off on so many tangents that come back here and come back here. So, I mean, I guess if there's anything that anyone's stuck with, they can contact me anytime on my Facebook coaching page or my Instagram page. You know, if there's an exit you're stuck with, you can send me the video, I'll give you a couple of coaching points, try not to go off on so many tangents, and yeah.
21st century coaching, man. That's what it's all about.
21st century.
Yeah. This is the point we've come to in technology where we can do this sort of stuff. So,
yeah.
And thanks for your time as well, man. Because I know.
No worries, mate. I had nothing else on today.
Oh, cool. Oh, that makes me feel so good. But no, seriously, man. Like I say, I've even learned loads myself, and I've been, well, for the last, I would say, realistically, for the last 5-6 years, I've been a sponge of information that you keep spewing out, which is wicked. You know, like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm shameless with it, but I do the same with whoever I can because it makes me do. Like, I'm a few steps behind you on that path, you know, man. Maybe quite a few, but like,
all on a different path.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I was quite similar in that end kind of goal, because like I would love eventually. I would say in. I'm getting old now, so in 6 to 7 years, I would like to be in that kind of category where I'm knocking on the door of getting my my advanced rating, and then see where that goes. You know. But in the meantime, look forward to AFF next.
AFF next.
Yeah, and obviously we're going to be chatting a lot about that. So maybe we can do another podcast about
that. Yeah, I'm all good with that, mate. I'm all good.
Awesome. Thanks, Ali. So until next time.
Yeah.
Then.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. See you later, mate. Bye.
Enjoy the rest of the day, then.
Well, ninjas and ninjettes, we've made it all the way to the end of the episode. Thank you for watching, and if you're interested in leveling up those ninja skills, a new video will be out every Monday evening at 7 PM. same time, same place. Follow me on Instagram at Drew's News and Facebook at NWA Sky and Tunnel Productions. I just wanted to say a huge thanks to Ali for his time today. Part 2, the mindset of an advanced instructor, will be available next week. Also, a gigantic, heroic, legendary high five to Chris Cook and the superb Lenswork, and for giving us permission to use his videos today, without which we would not have out an episode. Thanks Chris, you rock. And as a last and most important point, if you're thinking it's time for a new container, I'll save you all of the hassle. You only need to go to one place, www.uptvector.com, and your brand new V3 comes standard with a deluxe back pad, those super awesome magnetic riser covers, one-piece leg pads, much more, and to be honest, it's the most comfortable harness you'd ever wear. And then, just to make sure we tick all of the boxes, you can take that RSL one step farther and have a sky hook as an option. Essentially, using your main as your reserve pilot chute for the fastest possible extraction of that majestic reserve. Go to www.uptvector.com to find your nearest dealer, or drop me an email where I'm happy to assist. Thanks guys, Drew's News.